This is Seek Sustainable Japan, our sub-series we do monthly called Short Takes, 30 minutes of what is happening around Japan, interesting in our lives, in our careers, connected to sustainability in Japan. Thanks for joining. I'm JJWalsh here in Hiroshima, joined by
Hi, I'm Tove Kinooka in Yokohama.
and we are doing this live, so make sure to add your questions and comments as you like. We are having, I've got a warm drink in my hand. We are having a cold snap here in Japan. Hiroshima definitely last few days has been back to winter weather. How about you, Tova?
It's different every day, and sometimes from the morning to the afternoon, it's a completely different sort of temperature, and so yeah, it's layers on, layers off, all over the
Absolutely
place.
nuts. Like bring those winter jackets back out, right? The
Exactly.
wind has been really cold, like suddenly.
Mm,
And
mm.
the shocking thing I saw in Tokyo, Tova, is you had cherry blossoms and snow at the same time.
Yes, it does. We do get that occasionally, but and it's all very beautiful when that does happen. But yes, it's always quite an exciting occurrence when that happens. So.
Yeah. Well, I will start. I've got a great talk coming up on April 6th with Andrea Carlson. She is part of the amazing group doing the Minka Preservation Society. So join us live for that talk there, talking about upcoming events and workshops and really interesting talks and things that they're doing throughout April. And so I'll add links, of course, to all the great work that they're doing. And then on the 8th, I have a chance to talk with Ellie Hirano, who's a freelance sustainability consultant. Now, Tova, I know you do work with Ellie. Tell us a little bit about your connection with Ellie.
We do. So Ellie's part of our team, and I'm very happy to be able to say that. So she's been working with us for about coming up for a year now, as one of our facilitators and coaches on the sustainability entrepreneurship program we do in collaboration with One Young World. So yeah, very much enjoy working with Ellie. She's brilliant.
That's great. And it'll be really fun to just hear some insights of all the various projects she does. I don't know many people who are full-time, like sustainability freelance consultants. She sounds very passionate, so it should be a really good talk.
Yeah, yeah, no, she is, and she really knows what she's talking about. So, great person to speak to.
Fantastic. It looks like we've got Louise Puppy joining us. Great to see you there, Louise. Thanks for joining. Also in April 20th, Fabric is doing a special seminar workshop about certified B Corp and what is it, kind of walking people through who are interested. I know I work with Inside Japan Tours, also B Corp, other travel agencies I work with. Sometimes it comes up, but it's still relatively new in Japan, the B
Mm,
Corp philosophy, right? Do
yeah.
you work with a lot of B Corp in Tokyo area?
There aren't so many still in this area, and a lot of them are smaller organizations, whereas, most of our clients are the large ones. Having said that, we've got a client that we're working with currently that has it's a luxury brand group that has a lot of brands under its umbrella, and one of those is a registered B Corp. So that was really good to see that sort of luxury fashion brand is actually taking it seriously and really putting an effort into doing the right thing. So yeah.
So in a really simplified version,
Mm.
B Corp is basically a set of parameters for businesses to really show
Yeah.
how they're putting good sustainability strategies in place in terms of taking care of their staff, taking care of society. So the people
Yeah.
part, the planet part, how are you doing better for waste management, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
then, of course, the profit part, you being a responsible business. Is that about right, Tova?
Exactly, exactly. So it's pretty comprehensive. It's also not easy to get to the certification, and you have to keep reassessing as well. It's not something you get once and then you can forget about and sort of let things slide. They do sort of make sure that you stay on top of it. You do what you say you were planning to do or are doing. So yeah, it's very rigorous in that sense, and so it'd be great to see more of that happening in Japan. So Fabric's doing a great job on sort of building the community and knowledge around that.
For sure. Another shout out I wanted to give, and I know you work closely with them, is My Mizu. My Mizu is celebrating Their fifth year. This is a big deal, right?
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I mean, they've just gone from strength to strength. I think we've talked about them quite a few times, and I'm quite happy to go around and use my Mizu bottle at every opportunity, particularly when I go to events as a speaker or something, and I'm handed a bottle of sort of plastic bottle of water. I'll say, no, thanks, I'm fine, and I've got my Mizu bottle
Do you
here.
do the Japanese X? Are you like, no, thank you, but yeah,
Okay, thanks for the offer, but I don't use plastic water bottles. And they're like, oh.
yeah, right? And then working in tourism, quite
Mm.
a lot of international visitors come to Japan, especially Hiroshima,
Yeah,
not knowing how great the local water is.
yeah.
That I always introduce in front of the sake breweries,
Mm,
especially how they are promoting their local spring water because that's what they use to make the sake, right?
exactly.
But a lot of people just don't realize how great tap water is in
Yeah.
general in Japan, right?
Exactly. There's really no need to buy bottled water here. There's no excuse for it, really. So, yeah, I love the work my Mizu are doing on that. So,
It's so important.
yeah.
And I'm starting to see more, very few, but a few more fill up stations around in tourist areas. And that's going to become more and more relevant as it gets
Mm.
hotter. It's
Yes.
cold now, but once it starts warming up, it's a
Mm.
health issue.
Yeah.
Local people as well as visitors are going to need places to fill up because you can't just depend on the machines. Often they're sold out, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's the great thing that the My Mizu app, people can add to it. So if you're out and about and you've got the app and you find somewhere that's not sort of on it already, you can add that in as well and sort of apply to have it included. So it's a community effort as well.
Absolutely. It's such a great idea.
Mm,
So, My Mizu, the group, they do not only the app, over 200,000 locations where you can fill up for free. I love that Patagonia is one of the spots. So, if you ever see a Patagonia in Japan, there's other standards that you can look for that you might see all over. But they also do a lot of collaborations and partnerships with businesses, do
mm,
consulting work as well as education. So
yeah.
you'll see a lot of the Maimizu team going out to universities or doing seminars for
Mhm.
communities. So they're doing a lot of great work, aren't they?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Now you had a lot of connections to oceans. We're going to talk about. You went to the World Ocean Summit. Tell us about this.
Yep. So this is run by the Economist Impact Group, and it sort of moves around to different countries. This year, it was held in Japan, which was brilliant. So we had a huge number of experts from all over the world, from NPOs, from science and research, from government organizations, coming to talk about oceans. And over 2 days, very intense few days, the conversations ranged from the science of it, looking at things like ocean acidification and plastic issues and plastic pollution, to things like governance and the fact that actually this is a really hard one because unlike land, where you can sort of say, well, this land is owned by this country or this sort of group, therefore they have responsibility for taking care of it. The oceans are not like that. They're very, just by the nature of them, they're so vast and ownership is sort of often just around the coastal areas. So who takes responsibility for taking care of that is actually a really difficult issue. So there was a lot of really interesting discussion on how organizations are tackling that, how countries are collaborating, to really sort of look at how can we work together. And this part, so the collaborating with the ocean part there, which comes out of the UNESCO group, was looking at ocean literacy. And they've got sort of different ways of, or different packages. They've got ocean literacy for schools, for sort of communities, and this one was for corporate action, which was a concept I thought was really, really brilliant, because very often we sort of leave the science to the scientists or to the policymakers, and there's very little awareness generally in the public, and particularly in companies, say, about the science and what it means, and therefore what we need to do, what our responsibility is, what we can do differently as individuals, as companies, what our connection is to the ocean. And when we hear things like ocean acidification or stuff like this, actually, why should we care about that? What does it mean for us? And so this concept of ocean literacy that they're developing is, I think, really, really important, not just for oceans, for any aspect of sustainability, but they're doing a really great job on the oceans one of helping people connect the dots between what's going on in the science and actually what this means for you and therefore what you need to do.
That's awesome. When I went to the Ogasawara Islands, which you can only access by 24-hour ferry from Tokyo, and
Mm,
I wrote about it on All About Japan. And the island we went to first is the main island where most people live. But both of the islands that we visited, they're really trying to help support the sea turtles that
mm,
go and lay the eggs there. That's one of their, it's part of their brand. It's why people want to go and visit because of this connection. But they found that the lights along the shore were attracting the turtles into traffic. And even though
mm,
it's a rural area, they didn't have that much traffic. It was a big issue. So the mayor was telling me how he was very proud. One of the initiatives they did, they had studied what other places around the world
mm.
doing, and they found out that if you change the light bulbs to a different color,
Yeah.
it doesn't
Mm.
attract the turtles into the city.
Yeah.
And they also made safe nesting areas away from the harbor where the ferries were coming in. And,
Hmm.
just using strategies and doing the research and
Yeah.
trial and error and kind of figuring out how it
Mm.
works best. And I was just so impressed by what they were doing. It's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, light pollution is something that perhaps we don't think too much about, and when we think about it, we often think of sort of wanting to have light as a safety issue, perhaps in our urban areas, if we're sort of walking around at night or anything, or being able to see where we're going and things like this. It's yes, that's important, but it's incredibly disruptive to natural rhythms for lots of creatures, including us, actually. And there was some research done by the Plymouth Marine Laboratory, who were sort of a big part of the Ocean Summit. And I was speaking to one of the professors there, and he was saying, yeah, that that we don't realize that it's not just impacting the sea life, but it's actually impacting us as well in our rhythms. And so it's not sort of something that we can only look at in terms of safety. We need to understand biologically what is this doing to us, to other species, and what could we do? Like you said at the Ogasawara Islands, simple things like perhaps putting lights that come on with sensors. You were saying, for example, rather than being on permanently, so
Absolutely.
they're on when they're needed
Yeah.
and they're
And
off the
I
rest of the
see that,
time.
and we have a new apartment block that went up right next to our house, and our upstairs rooms are bright all night. And
Mm,
that's a problem
it's
because
not
they have
good.
the lights on all night, even though nobody's passing, they don't need it. So if they
Yeah.
had a sensor that would
Mm,
just come on when people needed it, maybe it would wake us up sometimes, but it wouldn't keep us up
yeah.
all night where we have to
Exactly.
get really thick blinds and
Mm,
adapt that way. But
mm,
that should kind of be a standard to think about.
yeah.
If your light that you have on so bright, if it's
Mm,
going in other people's windows,
yeah.
maybe some kind of building standard would be a good idea, right?
That would be really good to see. Yeah. And it starts with awareness, right? Understanding the
Absolutely.
science and what this does, and therefore why we need to change the way we're designing or sort of using things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it would probably save them money if it was a sensor light and it only went on when needed,
Yep.
right?
Win-win.
Win-win.
There you go.
Now, you also mentioned there's an upcoming Imperial Palace charity walk
Yes.
coming up on the 4th and 5th, and this is Mirai no Mori organization. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. So Mirai no Mori are an NPO that work with children who are living in care homes, and they prepare them for the transition out into life after the care system. So the care system only takes care of them up until they're 18. Once they graduate, off they go, and they're left really to fend for themselves, often without the support of understanding. Uh, Life, what they need to do, without sort of particularly any sort of life skills, if you like, or support from adults as well. So the Mirai no Mori programs runs wonderful leadership camps for these kids. They have sort of a leadership in training program, which includes a lot of outdoor stuff as well. So reconnecting with nature and things which a lot of these children wouldn't otherwise get the opportunity to do. But also sort of learning to be independent, to make their own decisions, to trust themselves to make their own decisions about sort of things that are important to them. And so they help them build these skills and computer literacy and some English and skills that they can then go and use in the workplace. So they do amazing work, and they have lots of fun fundraising stuff throughout the year, but the Palace Walk's always a good one. It's a great opportunity to go out for a nice walk. Hopefully the cherry blossoms will be good and hopefully the weather will cooperate. So
Yeah, it looks like
yeah,
in the poster they've got some cherry blossoms there. So maybe last
exactly.
year they did have cherry blossoms.
Yes.
Who knows what's going to happen with the cherry blossoms? Did they come out earlier and then we've had this cold snap, so some of them will come out later? It's hard to tell, right?
It's exactly, again, it's messing up. Climate change is messing up all the rhythms, which is going to have knock-on effects that we don't understand yet. So,
Absolutely. And another thing we've noticed this year, which I've never heard of in Japan before, is the forest fires. We've
yes.
had forest fires about around Japan for the first time in the
Mm,
30 years I've been here. And it's really a new problem that we usually have more than enough
yeah.
rain.
Yeah.
The forests have not been as dry as they have this year. So
Mm,
Japan definitely is showing the effects of climate change, global warming. It is happening here.
yeah.
Whereas for a long time, we were thinking, well, Japan's using a lot of coal, a lot
Mm,
of fossil fuels for making energy, but we're not really seeing it here, is what
mm,
a lot of residents were feeling.
yeah.
But this year has been a big change, and we're starting to see big shifts. So it
Yeah.
is the responsible thing to do as a homeowner. Maybe think about solar. As a business owner, maybe
Yeah.
think about where you're sourcing your energy if you don't have your own roof.
Hmm.
And then as a government, as leadership, how can we shift more toward renewable energy?
Yeah.
We know it works, solar and wind, we know
Exactly.
it's effective.
Yeah.
Let's get more of it going, you know?
Yes, please, please.
Oh
Yeah.
dear. Now, speaking of
Mm.
nature and climate change, you've been doing some lovely walks in your neighborhood park, and you have these beautiful pictures of mushrooms. This is gorgeous.
So this was just yesterday in our local park. We're very fortunate to have a large park sort of just around the corner from us. And a lot of the time when a tree falls down, it's very quickly removed, cut up and removed. And so I was really happy walking through yesterday to see this log just lying there. And yes, you can see the sort of the trees being cut, but it's been left there to decompose. And you've got these wonderful fungi coming up along it. And these, of course, are all part of the ecosystem. They all have their role there. Things are very interconnected. So we need things to be left there to do what they do and to play their role in that ecosystem. So I was really happy to see them. Not only are they beautiful to look at, but actually they're there for a reason. So it was really good to see that they had been left to do what they need to do.
Absolutely. And I am not a green thumb. I always would like to be. I always try to grow something edible, but I always fail. But recently, I am putting more flowers in the garden and
Mm,
at least trying to be a supporter of the pollinators, right?
yep.
That's the minimum I could do, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anything like that that you can put out there that's going to help the insects is, yeah, going to help us as well in the long term.
Yeah. On a kind of personal connection, I have been looking into trading in my electric car. I have a car model that many of you can guess, where the leadership of this company has been in the news a lot, and he's against empathy. And he
Mm,
is creating a lot of chaos and havoc around the world. And so even before I was one of the early adopters, I bought this car in 2019. It's a wonderful
mm.
car. It's zero emissions. I have solar panels. I'm driving on sunshine. It's wonderful. But I think for many of us who own a Tesla, we are looking for a change.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been really looking at Volvo because of talking with you, Tova, for
Mm,
the many years. And so I actually went into a Volvo dealer here in Hiroshima, and it was wonderful to see the managers are women.
Ah,
And we had a
yes.
great discussion. And they said we didn't have any EVs in their lot, but there is one about an hour away in Fukuyama that I can book overnight. So
Mm,
I can use the EV overnight if I have to drive far and really get an experience of what it's
yeah.
like. And they have these really cute EVs. Now, I have a much better impression of Volvo
Mm,
as a more ethical company. And you have often talked about all their great work in Japan. Can you give
yeah.
us a little insight?
Well, they've been doing a lot of work, not just on, I mean, obviously, Volvo have always been known for their safety and, sort of sharing that knowledge as well. When they invented the 3-point seatbelt, they didn't keep that to themselves. They said, actually, this is too important. We need to share it with the world. So we've got Volvo to thank for that and increasing our road safety. But also, they've been doing a lot of work recently. They've got a commitment to move fully to EVs. They've also been doing a lot of work to make their cars as circular as possible. So in terms of the actual materials used, the plastics, the metals, and things, they've been thinking a lot about coatings, for example, on the bumper, and the fact that if it's painted, it's then difficult to recycle because you've got to remove the paint from the plastic and so on. So just thinking through design aspects like that and saying, okay, how can we design it so at end of life we can actually recycle it, and what are we using in terms of materials anyway, and where are those coming from, and could those be circular materials? So they've got a display, I expect you'll see when you go to the place with EVs, where you can go and look at a lot of the materials that are used on the interior of the car and for the structure, and see that they're actually really committed to circularity in their production, but also biodiversity protection, which is not something you see a lot of, certainly automators, makers, but also sort of large companies in general really talking about. You'd think, okay, car company, biodiversity, what's the link? They actually do see the link, and are taking sort of action there to really consider, understand their impact and change their impact
Yeah.
for the better
And
on that.
I often go into Japanese car dealers. I'm
Mm,
always looking for EVs that are comparable to what I
mm,
have, a decent range and everything. But I did notice some very unique things when I went into Volvo, the dealership, and they have a section where they sell the reusable straw cutlery set. And
right.
they have a reusable drink container that you could buy.
Mm.
And they have bicycles for loan if you want to cycle around. I mean, I don't know any other car dealer that encourages people to cycle, but I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
And they gave me a cup of tea and a vegan Swedish biscuit. So there was so many
Mm,
wonderful things about just visiting. So I would
yeah.
encourage anyone thinking about a new EV to consider
Mm.
Volvo.
Yeah,
It's a great
absolutely.
option.
Go and have a look.
Yeah, great. Now you've been to some really interesting events. There's also a great event coming up you wanted to mention?
Yep. So this is Ichigo Bloom's big event coming up for Earth Day, which is they do the climate fresque, which people may have heard about. I think we've talked about it before, which is a kind of a card game designed to help people with no prior knowledge, but also those with some knowledge, and sort of build it to understand climate change, the impact on our lives, the connection to our lives, and how that works, and therefore what we can do to minimize that impact. And so they've got other ones as well. The climate one is the sort of the original, the basic one, but they've also got one on biodiversity, one on plastics, and more recently a planetary boundaries one to really understand holistically our connection to the impact we're having on the planet. And so they got this event on the 20th of April, where they'll have those four fresques, as they call them, going happening simultaneously. And so you can sign up and sort of put your preference, I think, for sort of either this one or this one. Some of them are in English, some are in Japanese, so it's going to be very accessible. So that will be a great event. So I'm joining that and really looking forward to that one.
That sounds great. Now, this is kind of an aside. It's not happening in Japan, but if anyone's in London, this is an interesting play being done by the Royal Shakespeare Company, and it's being performed in Soho until the end of April or beginning of May. And it's all about the Kyoto Protocol, the first real effective COP, like the pre-COP, right? The
Mm.
climate panel, and it sounds amazing. I was listening to the podcast by Outrage and Optimism,
Oh, they're
such a great
brilliant.
podcast, right?
Yep.
And one of the panelists there, she was actually there, two of them maybe, and they
Mm.
were saying they were able in the play to draw out so much of the feelings that people, of course, in a diplomatic situation, you're not able to talk about,
Mm.
but in the play they were able to. So it sounds very entertaining and really
Mhm.
wonderful, and I wish I could go to London and see it. And more importantly, I hope they do come to Japan. Wouldn't it be great to see this
Oh, it'd be
in
fantastic to
Japan?
see that. Yeah, absolutely. Making it so much more sort of understandable, relatable to people. And bringing it to a completely different audience. So that would be great to see.
Absolutely. And I think that was a time, the Kyoto Protocol time, when we had so much hope and
Mm.
optimism for Japan to be a world leader on climate change and
Yeah.
global warming and initiatives and renewable energy. And we're like, yes, Japan is on its way.
Oh,
Yay!
yeah.
But we need to get back to that. I'll
Yes,
put it that way.
exactly. Remember where it started.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
Now you also wanted to mention about Seigo's event?
So, Seigo Initiative are an NPO based in Fujisawa in Japan who are based on ocean conservation, ocean literacy, as we were talking about earlier, sort of helping people, companies, communities, and they do big beach cleanup sessions. Their next one's happening on the 13th of April, but I think that one's already fully subscribed. So, but look out for other stuff they're doing. They do some wonderful activities around sort of using art as a medium for people to understand ocean pollution, ocean conservation, and what's going on there. So yeah, look out for what they're doing. If you want to learn more really about oceans, companies like Maimizu and Seigo, and another one, Uminari as well, will sort of be a great way to understand, help you understand what's going on, what you can do. So this is Uminari. So the founder of this, Luke Date, he started off his life as a professional footballer, but he's also a surfer, and very passionate about the oceans and was frustrated about the pollution. So he now he set up this, and does a lot of work. He's got a cafe that has a lot of sort of sustainability related events in Tokyo as well. But Uminari are also doing a lot of sort of activities that you can join to learn more about ocean conservation.
That's fantastic. So much great
Mm.
initiatives about the ocean. And of course, Japan is an island. We're surrounded by ocean. It's so important for all parts of the economy and
Yeah,
quality of life, you know? So it's
absolutely.
wonderful to
Yeah.
see all these fantastic initiatives. Of course, Maimizu, who we mentioned earlier, they also do beach cleans and often
Yes.
collaborate with businesses as well.
Hmm.
Now, you were also at some interesting women's events.
Yeah. So the picture you're seeing there was probably one of the best events I've been to in years for International Women's Day. So this was an internal event for Conrad Hotels. Luckily, as they're a client of ours, I was able to go and join that. But if you just look at the lineup of people there, we've got Yu Shinagawa, who's on the left in the sort of beige jacket. She's a young entrepreneur working on DEI, started her own company, and is absolutely blazing a trail with stuff there. You've got Lilia Molchanova, who's sustainability and DEI at Userbase, a Japanese company, originally from Russia, working mom. Again, just really changing mindsets and behaviors where she goes. Tiffany Rosdale, who I think you've had on your show, who's a wonderful role model for transgender women and is really working to sort of help people understand, build the awareness of issues related to that. So it was such a wonderful, diverse lineup of women, and they all had such useful, practical advice to give. Whereas I went to another panel at a different event at a very fancy venue, very high profile speakers, well regarded speakers, and was incredibly disappointed that the things they were coming out with were so backward, were all about, yes, you need to get married and find a supportive husband, and then you can be a successful career woman. And, there are so many ways to succeed as a female leader in this world that I was really disappointed with the very sort of backward sort of opinions that came out at that panel. So the one at Conrad was a wonderful antidote to that.
And I think before we started, I talked about how over my 21 years teaching in a women's university, I saw so many changes for the better, for autonomy and women wanting to work for themselves and do
Yeah.
things they were passionate about. But in the very beginning, almost everybody who was coming in at the university was saying,
Mm.
I just want to find a nice husband and be taken care of for the rest of my life. So it has changed.
Yeah,
But
it has.
still, Japan, we have such a gender gap
Mm.
in terms of opportunities, in terms of equal pay.
Yeah.
But we do have so many wonderful success stories. So
Mm.
it's great to have these events, which really highlight the good
Yeah.
work of amazing women doing great
Mm.
things, but also, like you said, give such great, very practical advice
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
audience, right?
And role models, right? So, I mean, several of the panelists mentioned that, really you need to see representation, that women can do these kind of roles, and maybe sort of not just the HR positions that, they're often pushed into, but there are many different roles that women can do and very successfully. But we need to see more of that and hear those stories. So it was really great to hear from them on that.
Absolutely. Now that's our time, Tova. Did we cover everything?
I think so.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining again. It's always wonderful talking to you. And thanks everyone for watching. And as usual, I'll put the links below. And if you have any questions or comments, make sure to add that. Also, please subscribe and share with others who you think might be interested in these talks that we do. And have a great day. And we'll see you next month, right, Tova?
Yes, go for April tomorrow. Scary.